let us do a lesson on breath and Abhinaya. Breath is something which we don't notice at all, because this is one thing which you don't have to think about and do. Like many things, your heart, you're not telling your heart to pump, your stomach to digest, but it just happens. And the breath is something which is so integral to our lives, but we often don't really think about it unless you are into practice of yoga or pranayama or meditation. So as dancers, do we really need to think of breath? Or are we just doing our adavis and then, panting for breath and then do our Abhinaya? So however our jati leaves us, then we are having that breath. So is breath only related to stamina for dancers, or can we really think about Abhinaya and breath together? Before we go into exercises which you can do at home, let's look at a couple of observations when it comes to different emotions and what happens to your breath. Watch your breath when you are in some intense emotion. Let us say you have anger. If you notice how your breath goes, like if it is outright anger where you're uncontrolled and you want to do something to the person in front of you, then your breath will be like, how dare they do this to me? How can they do this to me? When you do this, it's more, the breath, if you see, is very forceful. At the same time, it's not like deep and calm, but, and this is the exaggeration you see in all our old movies where when Devi comes to slay the Asura, it's like, that's one exaggerated version, but forget the exaggeration. Think about it. If you can't hold yourself in intense anger, look at someone when they are intensely angry. Then also it helps us to calm ourselves down when the other person is so angry. If you see their breath, it will be short and, there will be heat in their breath, right? So have that in mind. Now when you think about anger which is not like this, where you're not that kind of Devi anger, but let us say you have anger towards a superior or a teacher or a person whom you really cannot shout at. Then if you look at your anger, it's very different. It's not where you are bellowing like this. It's like, I have to hold this. I don't have a choice. I have to swallow my anger. When you do that, if you notice, there will be that increased breath would be enough to, get really angry, but then it will be, let it go. I can't do anything anyway. So that is sort of a frustration. You take it out and say, so a controlled anger is very different from uncontrolled anger. When you either don't want to do something to hurt the other person, or when you can't. Both times you will see that breath building up. It's not worth it. Why should I punish myself too? It's more controlled in that sense. When you look at sadness, if you notice sadness, it's always with long exhalations. Why did this happen to me? Even if you are not really telling someone, the moment you're sad, you're like, it's always, the inhaling is always to exhale. So when you do in Tamil they say perumochu. That. And that happens more when someone is weeping or. So the whole inhale is to exhale. So when you do that, you will feel that your torso is pulled down every time. So as dancers, when we do that, naturally we are not going to push our shoulders down and droop. But at the same time, even when your shoulders are upright and your back is straight, when you do this, if you see that the breath will take you down, right? So sadness sort of calls for exhalations and long enough that you feel a gap after your exhalation. You're not just doing, when you take your breath immediately, that's anger. But when you, in the middle you have a gap, These are things not where I need to teach you to do. But when you are sad, that's what happens. You blow out all your breath out and there is a gap. Before you take in again and breathe it out, right? So that would work for sadness. And now if you notice wonderment, suddenly when you are surprised, then you'll hold your breath. What? Is this for me? Or something like that. So when you are seeing something, when it's a surprise and you really didn't see it coming, it's not like those surprise parties when you already know what is happening. It's like those surprises that you really didn't see coming. So when you come and you open your eyes and you see a friend you've not seen in 15 years and then it's like, really? Are you really here? So when you do that, naturally what happens is you fill your lungs with air and I couldn't believe this. And when you see that your air is still there and then you are taking in that whole surprise. So taking a breath, filling your lungs and holding would work with wonderment. Maybe when you dance you will probably say, or all of that. But even without the dancing, in real life when you have wonderment, you will see yourself holding your breath for that 1 second. Okay. Now when it comes to fear, right? If you see any horror movie, you will see that there'll be a focus on either the breath of the people who are scared or their heartbeat. They'll amplify it so you can actually hear the tap, 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 the way it gets faster. The same goes with the breath also. When you're in fear, intense fear, then you're like, so your breath is quicker and also it's shallow. It's not like deep where it's giving you enough oxygen. It is not giving you enough oxygen. You do feel breathless when you're afraid. That is fear, right? So we'll have so many varieties of our breath if you think about it more. And when you do take, when you're probably, done with your daily routine of some spiritual practice or meditation or something that you really like doing, after finishing that and you're like, that's a good day done. It feels good. When you say that this day feels good because you achieved what you wanted to or even more than you wanted to, then there is a sort of contentment. And with that contentment, you'll also see that the breath is so fluid. It's not restricted in any way at all. that's a good day. So when it's calm, it moves in and out in a deep way, giving you enough time to take in and time to let out. And when you look at contempt, you're saying, he's only that much. Why do I care? If you roll your eyes and say, I don't care. Really? That's all? If you notice in any situation, when you feel that somebody is lesser, or when you feel that this is not worth it, or, oh, give me a break, anything of that, your breath will be like, short but forceful. You'll be like, why do I care? Whatever. All this happens with a forceful exhalation. Just let it go. As though I care. That is beyond any culture, or you will have that contempt which comes along with the breath. Forget whether I'm lifting my eyebrows, whether I'm talking anything at all. But the breath is forceful and short, right? This is when you feel something less or sarcastic or contemptuous, right? And so this is just to bring you your attention to something which stays with you as long as you live, your breath. When you have a feeling for your breath, that means you will also have a feeling for your emotion. So it also works the other way, where you can know how to control your emotions.